Hello, everyone. Welcome to another lovely edition of Freshly Pressed. Today we have with us Anthony Iannaccio. Did I get that right? Oh my
Yes,
God.
perfect. Yeah. I love it.
Amazing. Welcome to the show, Anthony. How are you doing
Thank
today?
you. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Um, for our audiences, before we get into any of your other stuff, I would love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your background and how you actually got interested in comics in the first place. Tell us your origin story.
Sure. Yeah, I love it. So I kind of always wanted to be a writer. Um, as a kid, I would write, you would get assigned to do like stories in school. Um, and that was like the first time I was like, wow, like you could do this. And like, I just loved making stories with like my action figures. So I guess really I always wanted to be like a storyteller, but writing was the way to do it. I loved movies. I loved comedy movies, especially. I grew up watching stuff like the Three Stooges, the Marx Brothers. But the other side of me was super nerdy and loved superheroes and comics, right? So like when I was younger, I didn't really read comics, but I had the shows. So I had like Spider-Man, the animated series, Batman, X-Men, all the good stuff. I grew up with, the best stuff that we were ever given, right? And by the time I was like in high school, 2008, I was graduating. Iron Man was coming out, the MCU. And that's where I really, really got into reading and collecting comics. Um, when I was younger, I still read comics here and there. I had like Death of
Hmm.
Superman randomly that I got from a book fair, Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. Those were like my two first like trades I ever bought.
Hmm.
Um, and so, I had this career path that I always wanted to be a writer. But I also had
Nice.
if I was actually in my room, you could see behind me my huge collection of comics. Like I have so many, I've read so many. There's so many I haven't read, but what I've always loved about comics is there's so much depth to them and more than like you see on the surface. Um, and so I always wanted to write my own comic, but I could never really crack the shell of like I don't know, like I've written short stories, I've written screenplays, sketches like sketch comedy. Um, but writing a comic, was I just didn't know how. Like if you look up online like how to write a comic script, let's say,
Hmm.
you're not
Hmm.
going to get like if you're trying to write a screenplay, there's a pretty standard format that you're going to follow. But if you're trying to write a comic script, everyone's is different basically.
I know, I know. When I first started writing, I'm pretty sure you might be part of those as well. There were a lot of Facebook groups, and this was like quite a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
Um, and there were like Facebook groups where people would just post like comic writing resources, or like just say like, "Oh, this is what my comic script looks like," and could you critique my comic, or like there's just like really good peer support groups for comic writers.
For sure.
um I'm not much of a Facebook person right now, but at this moment, but like I'm sure, like, and I've seen that. That's sorry, no, not to ramble too much, but
No,
coming
not
back
at
to the
all.
point, like they just saw a huge variety of different formats, and like almost feels like you make your own based on what you learn, right? Yeah.
Kind of, exactly. So once I kind of understood that, it gave me a little bit more confidence, right? I'm like, okay, whatever script, it's just going to be, I know how to write a script, so I'll go from there. And however it works, it's going to work. And part of the thing I learned is that it depends on the artist you're working with. So it's really, a dialogue you're having with your artist, and you guys are going back and forth, and some of the stuff happens off the page. And so the artist I worked with for Superguy, he's somebody I met through a friend. I have a
Mm,
podcast, Comics and Chronic, and so we needed a logo for that. And so my co-host Jake, who I've known for years, he has a friend named Joey Murphy. He's the artist of Superguy, and Joey Murphy did the logo for us, and I loved it. We started following each other on Instagram. We would send each other reels, start talking to each other, struck up a friendship. And I finally, so coming full circle, I got an opportunity to write a 10-page story for an anthology called the Unknown Heroes Anthology, Volume 2. This was like 2023.
mm,
And I needed to do a 10-pager. The parameters were a 10-pager, and the topic was superhero team up.
right.
And I was like, okay, I don't know what it is yet, but I know that I can't do anything unless I have an artist. And maybe I'll go, the story idea that I go with is going to be based on the artist I can land and what they're comfortable drawing.
Mm,
And that's kind of how we landed on Superguy. Like I knew, so going back, Joey Murphy, he was the first choice in my head. I'm like, we're friends. I love his art. We've worked together and we've made cool stuff. So let's actually work on a project together. And that project ended up being Superguy. So I sent him a
nice.
list of some, pitches basically. Superguy was my number one pitch. It was his number one choice as well. So I was like, all right, that's like the first sign that we know we're on the same page. This is going to be the thing that we pursue. Uh, and so without that opportunity for the anthology, I don't know how long it would have taken me to finally make a comic. But being able to, like, okay, I was able to, all I had to focus on was writing it and paying an artist. The rest of the stuff, I didn't have to worry about how to get it printed, how I was going to promote, or any of that stuff, because I was just a story that was part of someone else's project. And
Yeah,
that took a lot
yeah.
of pressure off. So that was, I think, the perfect way to get my foot in the door and start making comics.
That's fantastic. I so resonate with that story. Like I got my start with an anthology as well, and like
Nice.
there's so many first time writers who get their start from there. It's also lovely to work with an editor, an actual editor on a comic, and get to know some of the tropes and like
Yes.
things that make you better. Like I distinctly remember like a lot of footnotes from my editor on the anthology were around, oh, can we improve the sound effects, can we do like like just fine tuning the story to a point where now it just looks really good. So um yeah, but yeah, you're absolutely right on anthologies. They're such a good place to actually start and learn as your first steps as a comic writer.
Yeah, 100%.
Amazing. Like you may not earn any money or anything, but you'll just be a better writer at the end of it. And I think anthologies are amazing for that. So like if you're an aspiring writer, I would just encourage you to find one
Yeah.
and go for it.
That's the challenge, right? Like finding them, or even if you find it, getting accepted. And
Mm,
anthologies have different rules, and like, some anthologies will only select certain people to join. Some anthologies want a completed script. Some anthologies just want an idea, like a pitch. Some anthologies want a completed comic. So and just finding those, I found the first one for the one shot of Super Guy, but I had not found an anthology up until last year. So there were a few years where so you know what I mean? And that was even after I made a comic. So it had nothing really to do
mm,
with the fact that I had some experience. Like I just didn't see anyone making them. It's getting easier because I found two more this year. So like, okay, I found one. Now I found two more.
yeah.
But that really feels like one of the best ways, even though I'm trying to put out my own series, to still get more work out there and work in different genres too. The rest of the stories I'm working on are horror comics that have
Wow.
completely different tone than Superguy. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. No, I agree. I think overall, I feel like there's a lot more comics being made these days,
Yeah,
as opposed
yeah,
to say like 5 years ago. I think the anthology I worked on was in 2018. Like at that time, raising money on Kickstarter was not easy, but relatively easier because there was much less volume on of comics and
yeah.
so much more attention from Kickstarter crowd. So but now it's very different. So yeah, definitely, I agree with that. Awesome. Tell us a bit about the campaign, the story of Superguy so far, without spoiling it, of course. I've read both the issues and I really liked it, but I would love to hear from you about Superguy.
Sure. So Superguy at his most basic, the basic premise is that he's a lazy Superman. He has like think of someone with all the powers of Superman, but he doesn't want to use them. It's not that he just doesn't care. He'd rather just sit at home. He's not heroic in any sense of the word. He just kind of poses as a superhero, but everyone loves him. Everyone in this fictional world in the big city where he's from, they love him. But one of the big things about Superguy and the story that we're following is that he has a robot sidekick named Robot Guy. And Robot Guy does all the work for Superguy, the dirty work, meaning like his laundry, and he does all like the saving of the city. But Superguy still gets all the credit. So
Yeah,
when we start the series, it's a one shot. And what I want to point out immediately that's also part of this campaign is that this is the campaign for issue 2, but issue 2, there's plenty of people that probably missed issue 1. And even if you picked up issue 1, you haven't gotten this edition of issue 1 that we're offering, which is the super deluxe edition. So the first issue and the second issue, they're both 28 pages. The super deluxe
right.
edition for issue 1 is 28 pages plus the 10-page one shot. That's the original Superguy story that I was just talking about. And that's
Nice.
only been collected in that original anthology, right? So unless you were one of the people that backed that specific Kickstarter anthology, you probably don't have it. And then for Comic Con a couple of years ago, I made some Ashcan copies of the 10-page one shot, which were really cool. I liked the format of it. It was easy to give out. They were cheaper to print. But those were like kind of super exclusive just because I only did a limited print. I had never printed anything before, so it was kind of a test run, you know what I'm saying? To just like have something. Uh,
Yep, yep.
so unless you're one of the people that have that, which was offered in a very limited supply in the first campaign, that ash can. So most people, what I'm saying is most people don't have a physical version of the one shot. It's something I give out for
Mm,
free digitally all the time. On the Comics One app, it is for like also Super Guy #1 is on the Comics One app as well. But the one
yes.
shot is there for free. I'm pretty sure I made it free. If it's not, I'll make sure it's free. Um, so that's a way to just get into the series. Long story short, there's the super deluxe edition with a new cover by series artist Joey Murphy that includes the one shot and the first issue. So you could jump into the series with that and pick up this new issue. In the first issue, you're getting the story of Robot Guy and Super Guy clashing. Hero and sidekick no more by the end of the first issue. I'm not telling you how we get there, but the whole first issue is the story of Robot Guy realizing he's a hero and realizing Super Guy is not the guy he wants to be with. Issue 2 is picking up from that. Super Guy, one of his arch nemesis is the president, aka the Prez. Uh, the Prez is a big part of the Super Guy story. He does appear in this issue, but more importantly, it's his daughter that we're focusing on. The name of the issue is My Date with the President's Daughter. She is a character that we mentioned in the one shot. Uh, I know this is so long winded, but the one shot, really quick, is about an alien army is invading Earth. It turns out it's actually Robot Guy who's invading Earth. Robot Guy starts out as a villain. The
Mm,
president calls Super Guy. He's like, "Hey, these aliens have invaded Earth, kidnapped my daughter. I need your help." He's like, "Okay." 3 hours later, Super Guy actually gets off the couch. This is like one of the few situations we'll actually see Super Guy being active, but really he's a coward. He's saying, "Please don't hurt me. I don't care about the president's daughter. I just want to be home." Gets into a fight with Robot Guy. Robot Guy gets struck by lightning. It turns out his whole system gets rebooted because of that. He becomes Superguy's sidekick in the process. In the process, he attacks his invading robot alien army, destroys them, destroys the White House in the process. This was before the Captain America movie, by the way, way before,
Yeah,
where the same
yeah.
thing happens. And Superguy and Robot Guy team up. They decide, it's going to be hero and sidekick. And so we're going into that in the first issue. The second issue is again just kind of it's each issue I try to have a cool adventure that's happening.
Mm,
Because you're only
mm,
getting one issue a year, right? But
yeah,
there's still a larger story that's at play. So I of
yeah.
course would recommend reading the one shot, reading the first issue, not just jumping into the second issue. Um,
Yeah.
because that's how I structured the story. But so on this campaign, really the focus is the story and the art. So
Mm.
we have a lot. We have 3 variant covers along with a main cover, and that super deluxe edition I mentioned earlier. So we have Ahmed Rafet. He's an Egyptian comic book artist. So cool. He did a variant for
Love
us
his
on the
work.
first issue of Super Guy. That was a hot seller. A lot of people love this cover too. I love this cover. I love all the covers, but it's so cool. I love the romance homage. We have a
Yeah.
lot of homage covers actually for this one. Um, the next cover too, I really love. Adrian Kolaric. He is a Canadian artist and a writer too. He just had a Kickstarter.
I
I
love
think
his work. Yeah.
his work is so awesome. I gravitated towards it, right? The Sitter, a great comic. It's this like super long one shot that I highly recommend everyone try to pick up a copy, check it out.
Yeah.
But it's this kind of art, right? It's this style, which like it's kind of like Ren and Stimpy-esque, but that's like it's still his own, like it's just its own thing. I love it. I thought a year or so ago that it would be perfect for Super Guy. So when the second issue came around, I messaged Adrian. I was like, "Hey, would you do a cover?" He's like, "Yeah, I love Super Guy." Boom. Okay. And for anyone watching, listening, that's how you reach out to artists. You like, especially if you like their work. Like you never know. Don't just be like, "Hey, do this cover for me." Obviously, not like that, but like, I had talked to him about his work earlier, and like, it was kind of a no brainer to just try to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. His earlier work, the one that was with Scout for a while, and then it reverted back to him.
Oh, yeah.
Trakovi, the Slav with no remorse. Actually, Superguy parallels the character a little bit, not a whole lot, because like Trakovi is kind of like messy and really like he's obviously he has mental issues, but that's a different character. But the way he's portrayed it, it's really messy, grimy, and that kind of thing. I think
Yeah.
the Superguy kind of parallels that in some ways, and
Yeah.
that's why his art is so suited to that cover as well.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe like I subconsciously realized that. But you saying that is like, yeah, like I just didn't realize that. But like still you're absolutely right. Like and it fits the vibe either way. But that's a good point. Now I have to go reread Trakovi because I do have it.
I love
Of
those
course I
books;
have
they're
it.
so good. Yeah,
The next cover I love. This is a Kelly Jones Batman Nightfall homage from Andrew Drillin. He's a Filipino cartoonist. He does cover work for DC. Um, Again, someone else that I met at like New York Comic Con, loved his work. Gave him a copy of Super Guy and said, I'm coming out with issue 2. I don't know if you have the time, if you're interested, but we struck up conversation. We're talking to each other, and we were able to get this done. And I love it. It shows a different. Each cover shows like the characters could work in so many different unique art styles, but each one also captures each character and all their characteristics in the way that matters. So like even though this isn't really how she looks in the comic, it's still like the same vibe Joey's art is trying to bring, just in a different style. And yeah, I again, I love this cover. I love all the covers, but they're all so good. And that's part of that's for me. I love collecting comics, buying comics, reading comics. So the way I try to structure the Kickstarter is, okay, if I saw this, that's hard. That's art that's hard to resist. And I
mm,
feel like if I could pile up the art that's hard to resist, then I could get, people to at least get a bigger reward, let's say. But really, at the end of the day, I just want people to check out Super Guy. So any cover, I'm hoping is like, okay, maybe I don't like that one, but you know what? This cover is getting me to read the book. So, I'm thinking like again, how I read comics. Sometimes I buy comics just for the cover. I think we all
Nice,
do that.
nice. I so many times.
But it's my story. I guess what I'm saying is I totally back my own story. I back the
Mm,
original art, but if there's everyone has a different way of looking at comics. So I want, at least try to offer you something as an alternative. And
yeah.
that's and I emphasize all that just because that's like the bulk of the campaign. There's not a lot of extras. We do have a pinup that we're giving with every physical order. It's by an artist called Wizard Shit. That's his Instagram handle, but he told me that's what he wants to go by. So
Okay.
it's all the way towards the bottom. It's kind of got like a purple background. Um, Right here, yeah,
Ah,
this one.
yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah, it's so cool. Again, a different style of Superguy, but you get who he is, you get who Robot Guy is. It just works.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the other pinup we have, which is right above it. I'm sorry, this one, yeah, this is by
Oh,
Italian artist Andrea Schiavone. This
wow.
this is an add-on, but it's an awesome Superguy Robot Guy selfie. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but the style just matches Superguy and Robot Guy so
So good.
perfectly. Um, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so impressed by every single artist that contributed art to the campaign, especially Joey, who's still working on the comic. He's still coloring it. But
Mm,
Joey is also offering sketch variants. So we only have 5 of those left. It's a limited reward. But
mm.
Joey Murphy, the cover artist and the main series artist, is going to do exclusive sketch covers for anyone that does that. So that's a special tier. It's again, there's still like 5 available, so I hope more people take advantage. The
Nice.
campaign is running for a few more weeks at least, so we end on March 14th. Thankfully, we funded in a few days, so that's super awesome. No pun intended. And like we definitely need as much support as we could get. The more everything helps us create more super guy, that's all it's going to. It really is going straight to artists. That's what all the money's for. Like I would never like every artist I work with, I just want to make sure like everything is fair. Like
Mm,
I hate I'm so anti AI. I hate that people like not want to pay artists to like get work out there. Like that's insane to
yeah.
me. Um, so I really try my hardest to just make sure like I get art out there, especially like I think every artist I try to make the art choices diverse, but I think we also have a diverse lineup of artists. It's kind of like international, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. It's
Um
amazing. It's
I'm just
amazing.
trying to like, make comics like with the coolest people I could find, basically.
That's the best way to do it. That's the
Yeah.
best way to do it. Yeah. You find cool people, you work with them. At the end of the day, you want to have fun while making comics because it's such a good medium. And part of
Yes.
the reason for getting into comics is one, like you write stories that you enjoy yourselves, right? You have
Yes.
love for superhero stories, and then meet good cool people and have fun. That's
Yeah.
that's the whole point. Yeah.
I mean, that's the main philosophy of Super Guy. Have fun. Like we just want it to be a fun comic. Like if you're not having fun reading Super Guy, then I feel like I failed, right? If you're not
No, no.
laughing, if you're either you have to be laughing or just enjoying the time. Like I don't want it to feel like a drag. I don't want it to be too melodramatic. I just want it to be like, yeah, this is fun. Like that's the biggest compliment I could get. Like it was fun. It made me laugh. I don't care how it made you laugh. Like if like sometimes I laugh by like breathing through my nose. Like hey, that's a laugh. I count it.
No, I can, having read both the issues, and yeah, I can definitely vouch for that. Superguy has a lot of funny moments. It has a lot of self-deprecating moments as well. The humor is on point. It's I think silly is the right word. Like it
Yeah.
is rightfully
Yeah.
silly for what it is. And yeah, it doesn't skimp on any of that, plus fun. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
really good. I think, at least personally, I've enjoyed this a lot. So yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Amazing, amazing. So Anthony, we are coming, it's a slight segue. So we're coming to the point where I want to ask you, put you on the spot and ask you the top five pop culture things you like. Because, yeah, I love putting people on the spot.
No, I love it. I love it. Um, all right. So is like I want to like if I say comics, like is that like I feel like that's I'll
That's
give
not a
you five
cheat.
different ones from that though, is what I'm saying. Forget it, because that's a giveaway. Uh, in no specific order too, but this is what's coming to my head immediately. The Twilight Zone. I
Nice.
love the Twilight Zone. That was something I always grew up with. I would watch. So this was me on 4th of July. Everyone's outside barbecuing, shooting fireworks. I'm in an air conditioned room in the dark by myself watching the Twilight Zone marathon. That's what I'm
Nice.
doing because that's, to me, that was fun. And that was the only time I could watch it. Like I would never catch it on TV besides that. Now I have it like on DVD. I can watch it literally whenever I want. But such an influence on like my taste in sci-fi and just writing. Rod Serling is extremely influential. And to go off of that, I would add Planet of the Apes into the mix. Like he's, a huge part of why Planet of the Apes is what it is, but Planet of the Apes in general, like I'll watch every single movie as many times in my life as possible, like I love the whole concept of it. I,
Hmm.
I loved it since the first time I saw it. Like I got like a DVD set when I was, I don't know, 10 or 11. Like the Mark Wahlberg movie came out, and that was my first exposure to it. And it was so bad, and it was one of the first times I remember as a kid, like leaving a movie theater. Like I would go with my dad all the time, and just being both of us just being like, that was a bad movie, like that was just unenjoyable. And my dad was like immediately like, he said to me, he was like, that was terrible, I'm buying you the first one. So like we went to Blockbuster and bought Planet of the Apes on VHS. He's like, now
Yeah.
watch this and tell me what's better. And obviously, the original Planet of the Apes is the best one out of everything,
Holds
and
up.
of course, it
Yeah.
was better. Um,
Yeah.
so I just love that idea. Just like it's the future, but and also one of the best twists in movie history of all time. So if not the best,
Yeah.
we've
Also,
got
the
Darth
like
Vader.
just big shout to the new ones. Actually, they
Oh
they
yeah,
have
absolutely.
they've been really consistently good movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. Like for a series with so many movies, only a couple are really duds in my book. Like the Mark Wahlberg one and probably like the fifth one from the original five. Everything
Mm,
else is pure gold to me,
yeah.
I love Beneath the Planet of the Apes with the atomic bomb. I love when Escape from the Planet of the Apes when they come back from the future and now they're in modern day or the 70s America. Um yeah, it's all so good. So like it deserves more respect, I think, too. I feel like it's one of those properties that like I kind of want to see. Disney owns it now. I would love to see them do a little bit more with it, like milk it at least a little bit. Like they have had TV series in the past that did not do well, but
Mm,
I kind of want to see a modern day, if it's as good as the quality at least of like the new Alien stuff, like why not? you
yeah.
know
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going so
Definitely.
far into Planet of the Apes,
No.
but I
No.
love it. I
That's
love it.
that. We are here for that.
um, I would say I used to be really into Star Wars, like at least the original stuff. Like the newer stuff, I don't really get into, but Andor was so good. So I'm just gonna say
Mm,
Andor. Like I think it's a show some people still haven't watched because either as Star Wars fans, it's too different for them, or they've like clocked out of Star Wars even more than me, and they don't want to give it a chance. You know what I mean? Those are the
mm,
only people I
mm.
think that haven't watched it because everyone else who's watched it, we all have the same reaction. It's just one of the
Yeah.
best Star Wars things ever. Just one of the best series ever, and just like so relevant to our times.
Mm,
Oh man,
mm.
I love Andor.
I have to watch it. It's on my watch list for a long time, but I'm in the
Yeah,
second category of like after the whole like new Star Wars saga debacle, I just checked out completely for quite some time, and I was like, yeah. So I think I it's on my list. I have to go and watch it. So
yeah,
yeah, Mandalorian did bring me back a fair bit, but
yeah.
I think Andor is probably, yeah.
Yeah, I
with
think
a lot of
this
good
kind of
books.
clears Mandalorian, or it did, for me it does. At least for like
Mm,
the Disney Star Wars era, I can't. Nothing else touches it for me, at least.
mm,
But yeah, definitely, I'm telling you, give the first episode a shot, and then go from there. But it's so good. Um, even though the last two seasons sucked, and we're never at this point, we're never gonna get any of the books, the rest of the series. I love Game of Thrones.
mm,
Game of
mm,
Thrones, I'm still a big fan of. And I'm less afraid to say it because of how, and what changed me more recently was A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Like, that is so good. Like, it reminded me why I love Game of Thrones in the first place, you know?
mm, mm.
So I feel like it's another series where it, I love it. I love most of it. I love like 75 to 80% of it. So that's good enough for me, but I'm such a nerd about it, right? Like, I've read all the books, and like I used to be way more knowledgeable about it, like when they were fresh in my mind. It's been like at least a decade since I've read those books.
Mm,
But
mm,
like, that world is just so rich, and I don't even really like fantasy that much, or not that
yeah.
it's fantasy, but like, even like just that kind of show. I don't know. It's just something I never expected to like, and I liked it way more than I did. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, like, some parts of it are just so bad. Uh, all right, that's four things, I guess. Uh, yeah,
Comics, we're still you can get into some comics.
yeah. Let's just say comics, because it's true. I love comics. But like, all kinds of comics, I'll read anything. It's like, any comic you have, I'll check it out as long as I have the time. Um,
Mm, mm,
like, I try not to be a snob with comics. Like, not that, if you're picky about comics, it doesn't make you a snob, but I'm I'll just read anything. And so, like, I think I have so many books for that reason. Like, I'll buy a book if someone's like, that's the worst book I ever read, because I'm like, all right, maybe it's not. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it's good to read bad stuff. I think it's good to watch bad movies. Like, it helps you
mm,
make, like, because when you could say, oh, this is why it's bad, you're kind of
mm.
understanding how not to do it when you're creating it yourself.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, and I love bad things too. Um, like, maybe like that's a pop culture thing. Like Daredevil 2003, I love that movie.
I love that movie. It's
Oh,
so
nice.
good.
Okay. But not everybody feels that way. They're either going to react
Mm,
like that, or they're going to be like, that's the worst movie I've ever seen. Like, one of the lower tier superhero movies. But I love it. I don't
yeah.
know. I always love that movie.
Yeah. I know Mark Steven Johnson had that like run of like cookie cutter superhero movies. Like he made Ghost Rider and
Yeah.
then Daredevil and some of those movies. I think it made Electra too, and like I know
Yeah,
Electra is
you did. Yeah.
terrible, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
I still like I enjoyed those movies. They were fun, you know.
Yeah. Going back to that, it was fun, and superheroes and comic book stuff should be fun. No matter what.
Yeah, yeah. I 100% agree. Like I've gone into like this deep rabbit hole oftentimes for bad movies with like I don't know if you're a fan of Red Letter Media or not, but I'm a huge fan of Best of the Worst series from Red Letter Media.
Okay. I don't
Have
know
you
if
ever
I know
watched it?
them. No, but I mean,
Oh,
I do know a lot of so bad they're good movies, like Troll 2. I love Troll 2. That's my
oh
favorite of
yeah,
that
yeah.
genre. Yeah.
Oh, you must definitely watch like some of the shows from Best of the Worst, and it's basically these guys from Milwaukee. They're all like film students themselves from Chicago, and they basically have different ways of picking a movie. It's just a
Okay.
gimmick. So in one of the episodes they had Macaulay Culkin as their guest, and
Nice.
they put all the VHS tapes as like Jenga, as a Jenga tower, and they were trying to pick all the shitty movies and shitty like they watch anything right from like commercials to movies to anything at all
That sounds so
from the
much fun.
VHS
Okay.
era. Yeah, they're some of the episodes are really fun, and like I love their morbid humor, and like They get just so after they watch their movies, they get super drunk and have like a very, very elaborate discussion about these movies. So
Okay, okay. I was already
yeah,
sold, but now I'm like super sold. I'm checking it out tonight.
yeah, yeah. Like I share that love as well. And I grew up in India, and how like Bollywood has its own fair share of like terrible movies that I love to rewatch every now and then. So
Nice.
yeah, amazing, amazing. I would love for you to get a little bit into your writing process, because I love getting to understand where different writers are coming from. But yeah, I would love for you to get into like how do you actually start writing your story? Is it like the characters first? Do you like write a rough plot outline and then start filling in the details? Do you build the world first? What's your process like?
Yeah, I that's a good question. I feel like I guess I could say each time it depends, but like I don't know, like I don't feel like I'm a lazy person, but sometimes I could be like a lazy I feel like I'm a lazy writer compared to other writers sometimes, I guess. And by that I mean like I'm not sitting there like outlining anything. I don't want to outline anything, right? I know I do have an outline. I always have notes, right? Like I always have like I need to include this idea here, this idea there. Um but really what I find most effective is just kind of like mining for the story almost, and it's almost like, okay, let me just at least write something, right? Like I always have an idea to start with. So if I have an idea that like the way Superguy starts off, like the core idea of Superguy is what if Superman didn't use his powers? Okay. Superman didn't use his powers. If Superman existed in a world where he's there, he didn't use his powers, uh like what's what's the funniest possible version of that? Well, he
Yeah,
doesn't use his
yeah.
powers, but everyone still loves him and still thinks he's saving the day. Well, how is that even possible? Well, he has a sidekick doing his work. Well, of course, he's a superhero. He needs a sidekick, but the sidekick's actually a robot. Okay. Like that's I don't know why I made those connections, but that's how I got Super Guy and Robot Guy. And then I got this
Mm.
visual in my head of just like a robot, because I'm thinking of it as a comic idea first. So I had this visual in my head of like something like our double page spread in the first issue, but not necessarily. I don't know. Like, have you read Hawkeye by like Matt Fraction and David Aha? Have you read
Yeah, yeah, I have
Okay,
read
so
that. Yeah.
like there's a part in there and it's probably used in other comics too, but like I think there's like you see the inside of the building and Hawkeye's like going down, or maybe I don't know which Hawkeye, but going down the steps and like taking out, you're seeing so much action in like one page, but like you're seeing it
Mm,
all in, so like I just love that visual. So I just pictured like Super Guy sitting on a couch and then Robot Guy coming through like a building or something, or
mm,
just going through the world taking care of all the villains that Superguy has neglected. And that's kind of what we do in the first issue.
yeah.
Um, but it was just like those ideas. And I was like, okay, how do I get there? So once I start
Mm,
typing the script out, um, it kind of just starts to evolve. Uh,
mm,
okay, so the one shot, that core idea, I needed to just do something within 10 pages. So there was a challenge there, right? First of all, it's
yeah,
way I think a lot of comic book writers would agree that writing less, like having to write a story in less pages is way more difficult than
it
having
is.
more pages. And that I immediately found out, but 10 pages was my first, so I have no other kind of, you know, that's my first experience doing it. Um I'm like, what can I do in 10 pages?
Mm,
To like get the
mm,
point across that this is who Super Guy is, this is who Robot Guy is. So I try to get like as bombastic as possible with the limited
yeah,
space we have. So that's why everything feels over the top, but it fits with the silly tone, right? So
yeah, yeah.
immediately, Super Guy is getting a call from the president on this super secret phone that aliens have invaded and kidnapped his daughter. And Super Guy's
Mm,
sitting in his underwear. He's like, "Who's this?" Like, we already know he has this relationship with the president that's already like he doesn't care, but the president needs his help reluctantly. We
yeah.
can already tell Superguy is not Superman at all. um and we get like this big alien invasion for like right away. You're on page 2, the aliens have invaded. uh and it's just a one-shot anthology story, but I'm trying to give you as much story as possible. So I know it
Mm.
sounds ridiculous even in me saying it out loud, and having to have explained this out loud on a bunch of podcasts makes me realize how silly it is, but I love it even more. um
No, that's
but
the
like,
appeal of
so
it. Yeah.
yeah, right, yeah, exactly. So like, alien invasion, it's the president's daughter that's been kidnapped. Oh wait, the aliens are actually robots. So now I'm adding another layer to it, and that's part of like Superguy's dialogue. He's like, wait, can aliens be robots? Like, it doesn't matter, like, we're moving past that. And part of the humor is that Superguy always has like these weird like misconceptions about robots. Like, where did he get these ideas about robots? It really doesn't matter. Just everything in Superguy, the one shot, every issue I'll write of Superguy is for the sake of comedy. So
Yeah.
comedy comes first. If there's not something funny on the page, when you turn the page, it's going to put it in context to be funnier. Like, we really try to make it as funny as possible because that's all we want it to be. Like, yes, it's a superhero story, but it's a comedy story first. And
Mm.
that's how
Mm.
we play everything. So everything for the sake of comedy. So in the one shot, Robot Guy, how do I make him Superguy's sidekick if he's evil? Well, first of
Mm.
all, I just want to make him evil because I want him to have a bit more of a complex backstory if we could ever get to it. When I wrote the one shot, I
Yeah.
had no idea if we were ever going to get to write another one. But I
Yeah.
just wanted him to, start off as evil, and then when he's struck by lightning, now he's good. Now he's a
Mm.
sidekick. But we
Mm.
know he's a dude that had this background. He was leading an alien fleet, so he's not nobody, but now he's a sidekick. Um, and the whole thing with Superguy too is like, his ego is so big. Like, we're playing with, he only decides to do something in our first issue because his ego is threatened. He sees that Robot Guy has saved the day, and he doesn't like
Mm.
that. We never see him take
Mm.
action before, or before that in the story.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all to say that just from that core idea, it just kind of, everything I just explained was how my brain worked. Like,
Mm.
I don't
Mm.
know how long it took me to get to those ideas. But in typing the script, I'm like, okay, I have the next page. I'm almost out of comic script, like, I need to have everything tied together. So I love having constraints when I write. It makes it a
Yeah.
challenge, but in a lot of ways it makes it easier because it's like, okay, I can only do this, right? I don't have time for backstory. So I have to just kind of
Yeah.
be like, and that was how I approached Superguy 1, even though I had as many pages as I decided, which are 28, which is, more than the standard comic. But I also figured we have to charge more because it's a Kickstarter comic and we're indie. So I want to give you a bit more bang for your buck. And no one could
Mm.
tell us yes or no. So why not 28 pages? Um, and
Yep.
so the same thing with Superguy issue 1 is you're not jumping right into the action, but a few pages in you are. What I
Yeah.
try with Superguy number 1 is to hit you with, here's who Superguy is. Like, he's in a school, he's being a dick to all the little kids. Robot Guy comes in to say, hey, well, first of all, and then he explains his powers in a really, douchey way. He just
Yeah.
is being mean to the kids and saying, I have a cape, like, I fly, you idiot. Like, of
Yeah.
course, like, he's
Yeah.
that kind
Yeah.
of dude. But you as the reader are in school, you're getting schooled, you're learning his powers. Then we introduce Robot Guy on the 3rd page. He tells Superguy, hey, a meteor's crashing into Earth. He doesn't care. But then Robot Guy's like, but it's going to hit your apartment. Now he cares.
Yeah.
So every moment it's funny. We're trying to tell you who the characters are. And we're trying to move it straight into the action. So right away, Robot Guy goes to save the city from the
Mm.
meteor
Mm.
crashing into it. So like by page like 6 to 8, Robot Guy has already saved the day, and you have 20 more pages of comic to look forward to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, my creative approach with that is, all right, let's give you as much story as we can. I was talking to someone else, and I didn't do this on purpose, but like an episode of like The Simpsons, let's say, like maybe
Mm.
you're watching the first part of it and you're like, oh, that's the story. And then something happens and you're like, oh, that story wrapped up. This is actually the bigger story.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of how it plays. And I didn't realize that until, and I'm not saying this is The Simpsons or anywhere near that quality. I would never, ever claim that. Although huge influence, of course. But I did like that when I realized that, because is what I'm trying to do. Just give you as much action and comedy as possible. Like, yes, it's a superhero story and there's superheroes in it, but like it's more about like to go like as deep as possible with Superguy. I know it
Yeah.
doesn't seem this way on the surface at all.
Mm.
But Superguy is a guy that's a flawed hero. Everyone looks up to him. Robot Guy's in his world and realizing like why does everyone love this guy? Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
see how he
Yeah.
treats other people. He doesn't do anything, but they still love him. The president
Mm.
is asking him for help. And here's Robot Guy who comes to actually help people and they're like, "We hate you. Like what are you doing
Yeah.
here? Like we don't like robots. You scare me," right? Like
Yeah.
and I also started this story before, like I said before, I'm anti-AI. And the
Yeah.
thing is, like, I love Robot Guy. So like there's no like hate for Robot Guy. Like it's not even like
Yeah.
Super Guys, like, but I feel like I'll have to start playing into that because it's a reality that we're dealing with. And like I can't ignore that. Like
Yep.
I myself
Yep.
am anti-AI. And like so it stands to reason if there was an artificial intelligence trying to save the day, I would still hate it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it
But
definitely
but
wasn't,
technically,
you
it's
know.
not like Robot Guy is not artificial intelligence, right? Like
Right.
if you think about it, if you look at the backstory of Robot Guy, he's an alien from another planet. Uh,
Right. You're schooling me on my own story. No,
there's
but
a
it's true. It's
funny
true.
and I think that I think it's in issue one. There's actually a funny moment where his rest of his race actually treats him as a traitor because he's trying
Yes.
to save the day, and that was hilarious, and that kind of like humanizes him in a way, you know. So
No,
yeah,
no, absolutely. And that's what I want to do. I do want to humanize him. And like, I'm so glad you reminded me of that detail, but because it is something me and Joey have talked about. Like, I'm never going to spoil anything for Superguy until it's like on the paper and I know for sure that we're heading this way, but we have a lot of ideas and always sticking to the details we already have are one of them, like not backtracking. So if like we made a decision in the one shot as like amateur comic creators, we're sticking with it but playing into the story. So it was never a mistake in my mind. Like I said, I wanted to make Robot Guy deeper than just
mm,
like here, I am a robot. He's like, he is an alien robot, which is kind of silly, but he says, we evolved, we're not artificial. So like what is going on with those guys? I do want to
mm,
explore that more. I do want to explore Robot Guy's past, and we will.
nice.
But I only have I we have I 4 issues is the plan, and 4 issues is the plan because we can only do one a year. Like that's just as hard as we go. That's the most output we could do. It's just not possible for Joey, the main artist, to do more than that. And
Mm,
that's not a flaw. He's a human. Like like he's not
yeah, of
like
course.
this is my, if you include the one shot, we've done 3 comics together. It's not, he's done art before, I've written before, but this is new for both of us, so like I could get a script out pretty fast, but we still need time for the art, and that's just the reality of it, right? The flip side of that is that we would love to do more than 4 issues, and so we plan for that in the story. If we never get to it, that sucks, but it's never going to affect your reading of the story, and it's never going to interfere with the story itself. So like what you're alluding to, at the end of the first issue we get to see Robot Guy's sister, who's the Empress Spot. She's on her way to Earth, presumably. She's mad at Robot Guy for being a traitor. And we know that's brewing in the background. She's almost like our Thanos, if you want to think of her that way, but never really that serious, but like a big bad, right? Um, and so like that's not something you're going to see come to a head in 4 issues. That would be impossible,
Mm,
it's something
mm,
we just want to build towards. So yes, it's if we could get to Super Guy Volume 1 and continue from there, we're going to see her as like the person that's going to dominate Volume 2. Like that's the thought process, but it's still, like you're saying, it informs Robot Guy's character. It's not there needlessly. We know that
mm,
Robot Guy has his past that is catching up to him. Like
mm,
Robot Guy is, for the sake of the comedy of it, the straight man, but he does have his moments where like you're laughing at him just because it's kind of sad, or like the way he reacts to stuff is kind of, it's just meant to be funny, but he's not trying to be funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But like he's the only character in the comic that gets his own narration and we get his thoughts. Purposely, we never get Super Guy's inner thoughts. I don't want
yeah.
like if you haven't gotten information yet, that's not it's either we haven't gotten to it or we're not going to tell you. So Superguy's origin, if we haven't told you, you don't need to
Yeah.
know it. And I don't think it's important really, because again, everything is for the sake of comedy and story. And at no point right now in the story does it matter where his powers come from. It's not
Yeah.
about that. I
Superguy
feel like I
also
was
is
just
a very
rambling. Sorry.
transparent character. No, by all means. He's also a very transparent character. He just speaks his
Yes.
mind, like he doesn't care, he doesn't have a filter, he just says whatever he wants to, without any thought of consequences or anything at all.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. And I
um,
feel like that makes him more unlikable. Like the point of Superguy, you're not supposed to like him. So many people are like, I don't like, I'm sorry, but I don't like him. I'm like, good, you're not supposed to like him. Like he's not, like, and that's something I'm playing with too. And it might be like a weird challenge I gave myself, and maybe I'm just trying something too much for my first comic, but I'm like, well, what if the main hero, everyone in story loves him, but what if you, the reader, actually really, really don't like him? Like, and you, like, obviously that's why Robot Guy is there. You do have a protagonist to root for. What me and Joey like to joke about is that the comic should be called Robot Guy, but even Super Guy is like making it his titled comic,
that's a very, very fun take on it. Yeah, I agree. Amazing. We're coming close to time, Tony. But like before we go, I know we've talked a lot about the comic, but I would love for you to do a very quick elevator pitch of the book and the campaign, and why should people back it?
Sure. So, elevator pitch for Superguy in a nutshell. Superguy is a lazy Superman who has a robot sidekick that does all the work for him, but Superguy takes all the credit. When we pick up in issue 2, these guys have clashed and are no longer together, but there is a pink rampaging monster on the loose in the big city. Her name is Hot Mess. It's kind of a spoiler, but it's right there on the cover. She's the president's daughter, and there's going to be a date. Maybe Super Guy's on the date, maybe Robot Guy's obviously on the date, but what's important is what happens in between those moments. So pick up issue 2. It's on Kickstarter right now. You could also get a copy of issue 1. Our whole thing with Super Guy, again, is we're trying to have fun. I think there is comedy in comics. Absolutely. That would be a lie if I said there wasn't. Is there good comedy in comics? There is some to be found. Absolutely. There's a bunch of writers and artists that I love that put hilarious stuff and make hilarious comics. However, I think there's a pretty big gap in comics when it comes to comedy as a genre. And I feel like you're not getting a lot of that. I don't know if you're getting a lot of that in indie comics because there's so many indie comics that I can't say that for sure. I know there's other people that love humor and do stuff like that, but here's a straight up superhero action comedy that we're offering here. I think both art and my own writing, I'll back that up. I think it's unique. I think we're doing something a little different. We funded in 3 days. We have a lot of support, which I'm so thankful for. I think there's a lot of ways, especially with this campaign, to give Superguy a shot, especially if this is your first time hearing about Superguy. Feel free to DM me. I'm Mr. Tony Nacho everywhere. I will send you a free digital copy of the Superguy one shot. So if you want to just start there, boom, there you go. No hassle at all. But yeah, give Superguy a shot. We are funded, but we could use all the support we could get to make more Superguy.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll be backing it, and
Thank you.
it's hilarious. It's fun. What's there not to like it?
Yeah, there are.
Get it.
Another cool thing is, like, not for this issue, but we have pull quotes, and I've added them to the campaign page for issue 1. So other people have also said they loved it. No, I think a lot of people are big fans of Superguy. That's where we decided to move forward with this so hard. Issue 3s are ready. We're working on that. So like more Superguy is coming.
Amazing. That's it for today, folks. Thank you for coming on the show, Anthony. We really
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Do check out Superguy on Kickstarter. We'll link it in the description here. And until next time, everybody, stay gold.